Good afternoon to
Good afternoon,
everyone.
everybody.
Welcome to Wheels Up Live. I'm IND Bound.
I'm Felix.
We're glad to have you all with us. We got a special episode today. We have Raul from FSReborn, who's joining us today. Going to talk about uh, the 500, of course, that he just released. Going to talk about products that he's got coming down the pipeline, things that he's worked on in the past, and we're going to talk about the industry, which, as most of you know, Raul's been in for quite some time, and I think has a unique and interesting perspective on it that I think hopefully we'll all enjoy. How are you doing, Felix?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Just enjoy the holidays and everything. You have a good holiday yourself?
I did, and I think that we can agree that the holiday time was bouncing with flight simulator
Yes, a
announcements
lot of
and products.
announcements. Yes.
I guess a lot of these devs don't really care if their holiday season is blown to smithereens a bit.
Yeah, I don't, not
Yeah,
necessarily how I would develop an add-on having to provide support over a holiday, but to each their own. To each their own.
right. I'm releasing mine on like March 1st.
Yeah,
It's way before the summer and sometime after the holidays, and I can staff myself up as need be, I guess. But
sure.
I think everyone maybe wanted to make a little end of the year splash and get some things off their books. And along those lines, I think you tell me, Felix, but I think our biggest release right at the end of the year there was the A300 from Mini
Yes,
Builds.
absolutely. Huge. I mean, you're on their Discord. It blew up when it was released 100%, as it always does when they do anything in that Discord. But I mean, yeah, it was a pretty highlighted release on the A300.
And you and I have both had a chance to fly it a little bit. I think you more than I.
I've done like
Um,
3 flights, I think. Yeah.
yeah. First impressions?
So I haven't flown the latest build, so I can't speak on that. I will tell you that as far as there were some bugs. There were some really interesting ones. You saw the one bug that I had regarding the pitot heat and my airspeed just not responding at all on the approach into Syracuse in icing conditions. I think on the whole, though, the sounds, the entire package, just the UI, everything, it's really, really nice product. Obviously, there's bugs because that's what happens when you go from having a QA team that maybe has, 30, 50 people at the most, maybe 30, 50 people at the most, to releasing it to several thousands of people. You're just going to get those bugs. But they've been really, really good. Within 2 weeks of release, they've already had two or three, and the last change log was absolutely massive. So I think not only is it a good product, there's going to be, obviously they're going to do the Honeywell, the Primus Epic cockpit mod that UPS and FedEx have done. That's going to be for a fee. And then they're also going to have the Pratt & Whitney. So they're going to make this complete product. It seems like they've upped their game from the on the line motif that they had in X-Plane. And they're like, I saw one of the change logs was they've added CBs for certain situations. So that to me says that they're kind of taking their system simulation a little bit more seriously. So we'll see. First impressions were pretty good, but it's the first 2 weeks and they're going to have bugs. So I only expect greater things for the A300.
Yeah, what struck me with it most was that it did seem like this was not just a port
Yeah,
of the X-Plane version. That they had taken a hard look at this, that they had put significant new effort into it, and I think that is again reflecting the sort of 800-pound gorilla that any builds has sort of become. In that they obviously have resources and they're trying to put the time and effort into these
yeah.
things. And I'll also say that I think that the pricing is also another
Oh, it
area
was
that
fantastic. Like
benefits everybody. I for one thought that just the look and feel of the plane seemed very solid, and I think another area that was probably a welcome relief to a lot of users was this did not feel like a beta.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's this thing. I mean, you and I are both, been involved with products. We'll talk about one in a second that's still it's advertised as early access. I feel like that's kind of been a trend lately, especially in the large airliner world. It's something that we've seen in the AAA gaming industry for years. I think flight sims kind of sort of catching on to, hey, people want the product now. We'll promise we'll update it later. It's a breath of fresh air. I like to see, something that's pretty much, I would say, within 95% feature complete. There were a lot of day one, the maintenance simulation, these sort of things that kind of they went ahead and released it with. And I think it showed. And like you said, they have the resources, they have the bandwidth, and I think that's really showed in the release of the A300.
And speaking of things that we're hoping will not be in beta when
Yes.
it comes out, AnyBuilds dropped another little surprise. I think maybe some people had a guess at it, but others were
Yeah.
definitely shocked that they are working on an A350.
Yep.
Now, it's a 2024 release. Yeah, I think many of us have decided it's December, 31st,
Yeah, I think it's very much going to be
2024
like
at
the A300.
right at
Yeah.
11:59 Hawaiian time.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I think that's a big shock, especially since I think we all recognize that the A350 is sort of a different animal.
Yes.
There's an A350 and X-Plane 12, but I think it's a far cry from the highly
It's
from
an
the details that
A350
are
in name only. I'll
yeah
just go ahead and say it like that. Yeah.
yeah and so I think that there's an expectation that maybe we're going to see a product here that is genuinely new in this market, and I guess we'll see if
Yeah.
that happens. Obviously, there were not a lot of details at this point. We have the one image that they gave us.
Yes. That
Um,
image. Yeah. Very
yeah,
nice.
which I think that it's really hard to get any sort of
Well,
feel of what you're
I'll go
looking
ahead
at
and
here.
say that I'm really excited that they're doing the 1000. I'm a triple bogey main landing gear fan. I'm a 777 guy, so I really appreciate that they're going to do the 1000 and the 900. Um, Again, in seeing what's going on in the any forums, it seems like they want to do the OIS, the onboard information system, which, if I understand correctly, runs on Windows 10. So like it's got the keyboard computer, and it's actually a pretty interesting system. So it'll be interesting to see how they go around actually trying to implement that accurately. Obviously, the OANs, the airport map with ownership on it, break to vacate, and really the things that make the A350, which is like, I mean, even though Boeing has the 787, the A350 is this just kind of like starship of the future. It's really kind of, as far as at least the human machine interaction, it's really changed the game as far as airliners go, and it's set a new standard. So I would imagine that any build has some really tough shoes to fill when it comes to impressing people with an A350. Certainly myself included. I
Yeah,
mean, I thought they were going to make an A330. I think that was a lot of, that seemed pretty. I guess that was a really easy pick,
sure.
but
Well, yeah, I mean,
A350, gotta love it. Love to see it. Can't wait.
I think the A330 seems more accessible, but I guess we are going to see some A330s from somebody at some point,
Yeah,
whether FS Labs get there first or Aerosoft gets there first. I
sure.
guess we'll see, but I'm pretty sure. I feel confident that which one I'm going to buy if there's an option.
Oh, yeah. I'm very yeah. There's definitely I will be purchasing the FS Labs if
The
the
one thing that I
A330.
wonder about too with the A350 is limitations of Microsoft Flight Simulator. I know
Sure.
there could be some factors in there too,
I
and
feel like it would be a 2024 release if 2024 does come out this year. I think especially if 2024 is talking about weather API improvements. We talked about the weather radar, how it's 3D.
yeah,
The Embraer actually has this too. I didn't know that the E-Jets, the 170, 175, 195, they all have this too, but it's on on the vertical situation display, VSD. You can actually see the weather, at all angles and in the 3D presentation, which is really good for situational awareness. But I don't think that's something you can implement right now with the current weather API. Seeing
yeah,
even the A300 has weather radar, but it's very basic stuff,
yeah.
very basic stuff. So it remains to be seen if this is going to be 100%, 2020, or if it's going to be a dual release, or if it's going to be one of those, oh well, this is the first kind of product for 2024, and this is how we're going to do it. So
Yeah. Yep. Lots of questions on that one.
yeah,
And you were talking about early access products, and there's one other item for our news of the week I know you wanted to touch on, and that is um, the release of the Learjet, which
Yes,
we have
the
pictures here.
awesome Learjet 35 and the awesome AirNet livery, which is very intentional. But yeah, this is the FlySimware Learjet 35A. It's very much in early access. I don't mean that as in it doesn't fly right or anything. It actually flies really well. It's nice to hand fly. They're very much though. There's no tutorials that come with it. You're kind of just left to your own devices as far as getting it
You
in the
figured it
air,
out.
starting it, and flying it. It's actually kind of a breath of fresh air when you talk about how to fly this versus even something like the A300 because the way it does vertical speed, the way it does speed in the climb, in the descent, it's a very very different kind of way to fly, and everything, especially on the climb out, because it weighs nothing and it's got jets. Everything happens way too fast if you're unaware. It's nothing like flying even some of the bigger airliners. So it's kind of fun. You can do a lot more with it. It's got a lot of missions. I think they said they're not going to do the medevac, or maybe it wasn't the medevac, but they weren't going to do the freighter. So like there's an actual like version where they strip out all the seats and it's just cargo and cargo nets. They're not going to do that, but it looks promising. They keep improving it like almost every day. I get pings like every day for this product. The one thing I will say that I have noted is that for some reason, and they're changing this, so they're very aware of the situation, but it's activating your Windows Defender antivirus. And so I know some people have, yeah, I know, like some people are like, whoa, this .exe is activated. It seems it's a false positive in how they package the exe, and they actually went to an installer and it's not doing it anymore. So
Okay.
there was
Well,
something that they had that they were doing in the code, and now they've since rectified it. But just some kind of interesting information to learn about it. But it's fun. It flies right. The price is $39.99 US. And it seems like that they're going to go away from their traditional kind of like middle of the road, and they're actually going to get a little bit more involved in the systems versus what they were doing in Prepare. So
okay. Well, I
yeah,
guess we'll wait and see on that one. We're going to turn to our feature today, which is none other than Raul from FSReborn.
welcome, Raul.
Welcome.
Hello, hello everyone.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm all right.
Well, I mean, we're very happy you could be on.
Yes, thank you
Obviously,
very
you've
much.
you've had a lot going on.
Yeah,
The first one, of course, being that you have released the FSR 500, which is a pretty amazing turboprop aircraft. And
yeah.
tell us about it, Rule. How did you decide to make it, and how are things going so far?
Well, all the philosophy I have on the aircraft that I'm bringing to Microsoft Flight Simulator is that if I have the means to own in real life an aircraft, I will have purchased one of these models that I am building. So every single thing that you guys see that I'm bringing into the space is with the mindset that I would have loved to own it, but obviously, life is prohibitive sometimes,
Sure.
especially regarding to aircraft. So, in a way, by making them for Microsoft Flight Simulator, is a way for me to say, "There you go, I have it now," because it feels kind of that kind of ownership level. So, the first one that I decided to build to the space was a Sting S4,
Right.
which is
Yes.
an S4 ultralight. And the reason for it is because I have done before real life flying. The history of how I became a developer is quite interesting for people, and it's
Please.
not until recently that I have revealed how all started.
Yeah.
So basically, I posted this on AppScene and on my Discord server recently. So the way all started for me is that since I was little, my mom, my dad recalls I used to play with aircraft since I am 3 or 4 years old, little models. My room was actually covered in aircraft. So also it was my dream for my life to become a pilot, specifically an airline pilot. But I was born in Latin America, where studying to be a pilot is incredibly expensive.
Yes.
And it's just not possible. You either born rich, or you do what most people do, which is you join the military, and then you learn the military, and then when you retire from the military, now you have all the flying hours, and then basically you transition to the the space of airline pilots. So that was the plan, right? And I started all my studies and everything that I have to do. And when the time came, when you are 16, 17, you join a full boarding school for military. But you have to pass a lot of exams, not only intellectual, because you're going to be an officer, basically, to become um, a lieutenant, and then you start your flight training. That's how it was in the country I was living at that time. And what happened is, when I was 14 years old, I had an accident where my nose broke on 5 pieces.
Oh,
Oof,
jeez.
man.
It was a freaky accident, and I recovered from it because it was just minor fractures. It was not proper broken, but there were minor fractures everywhere, and they did all the operation, and then it was all okay. But when I started joining the military at that point in time, the training were always on F-16s, and they had a rule that you have to go through the training for the G forces, right? And when they did the physical exam, I passed everything except the x-rays, because they found microfractures still present on my nose, and they said, unfortunately, these disqualify you,
Oh,
because what will happen is when we go through the training, they can reopen. They require at that point in time, based on their research, that you have to have 10 years of any manufacturer being sealed. And it says normally it's not a problem when it's in your arm or other part of your body, but being in your nose is a no on our rules. And that was it. Um, so I went through a period of high depression because this is all I wanted to do. You know, you set up your childhood thinking this is my way up, and this is what I want. And it was one of the most darkest periods in my life because I didn't know what to do. So my dad, knowing how much I loved this, he traveled in secret to United States, and he heard that there were consoles with flight simulation. So what he did is he bought at that point in time this Atari console, the Atari 2600, and he bought several video games that were related to aviation, and he brought it back. And one of the games was this Top Gun game that was coming out at the time. And the biggest lesson that I learned in my life was when he gave it to me, because he said to me, "There is more than one way to live your dreams. Never give up." So, sorry, still affects me, right?
Yeah.
So that was like open your world to something else. And at that point, I knew, okay, well, I can't make it as a pilot, but this is amazing. You know, it was bringing me out of the depression zone, being able to feel I was flying. So when he saw that I was coming out of it, he bought a second device that was coming out in the United States, which is the Commodore 16. Now, these Commodore 16 were devices that you could plug in into your TV and you could do developing. And he said to me, "Why you don't learn how to make this stuff?" I said, "Yeah, that's actually quite a good plan." And that's how I decided to switch career to being a software engineer. Um, and that's how all started. So I went through university, learned everything I could. Life situations, I ended up living now in the UK, and that's how I became a software engineer. So for me, consoles are very important in my life. Is one of the reasons why everything I develop for Microsoft Flight Simulator have to work exactly as it works on PC on the console,
Oh,
because I feel that just the way I was inspired or help, I could help somebody else. and that is the reason why everything I do is the way I do it. I feel it has to be as real as it can to the real aircraft, because if there is somebody out there that for some reason, whatever it could be, it can't be a pilot, but it wishes to do so, I know the moment that they're using our products, it will feel alive again. It's a feeling that I have myself, and I want to bring that to them. And that's the entire philosophy of this. So to be able to achieve that, it has to be an aircraft that you love. It can be, I'm going to make this airplane because it would be cool to sell that. No, it will not work under the philosophy of what I want to bring into the space. You have to be something that you really feel, okay, this is the one. So when I moved to the UK and general aviation was more affordable at that point in time, I started flying. So I did manage to get a license. I didn't perform the full PPL because it was just too expensive. But in the UK, they had one that's called LAPL, which is light aircraft pilot license, and that's how I started. So I started flying on little things like the Icarus 42, or the Diamonds 20, which are very light aircraft. And I did a lot of hours on those. I managed to get my license on those. Eventually, um, I had the opportunity to become a father. At that point, I stopped flying for real because I wanted to be sure that whatever happened, I was always going to be available for my daughter. So I never pursued for the flying real life, but I did have the full experience. So when I saw this aircraft manufacturer called TL Ultralight and their Sting S4, and I had a parachute, I thought, there you go, right? If I could fly for real, that's the one I would buy, because if anything happened, I pulled the chute unsafe. And that's why that was the first aircraft that I decided to develop for Microsoft Flight Simulator. And I remember that they are Czech and my wife is Czech, so we called them and she was speaking Czech to them to ask for the permission to build it. And they granted us the permission and they did everything, and they started sending me all the data about the airplane, and we started building all the aircraft. And I started sending them the screenshot. Look, he's looking like this, and they were saying, "Yeah, but can you change this? Can you change that?" They became very involved.
Interesting.
And then at one point they told me, "Okay, but did you make the parachute work?" I was like,
That's a little tough.
we
Sim
want
limitation.
yeah, we want you to do it because it's one of the key features that we have for this thing. I said, okay, well, I like a challenge, and I went ahead and I managed, right?
Sure.
So far, it's still the only aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator that have a working parachute and caps. But then it was funny because I was asking them, okay, yeah, I got it working. Can you tell me what is the speed that it drops when the aircraft is falling? And they were like, right. Well, we have theoretical data. I said, well, give me real data. You want me to do this build real? Now give me real data. And they were like funny. They said, are you telling me that I have to go and pull a chute on one of these things? I said, I don't know what you're gonna do, but you need to give me some real data.
Right.
So eventually they did came with the real data because they did a simulation with the weight of the aircraft, and then they pop it out, and then they told me, and then okay, and then that's how it was all done at the end. And that was the first airplane to release.
Uh,
But obviously, you always have dreams. So okay, can I fly higher, right? And that's why I started developing others. I have a lot of 3D models already ready used for me to work, which is an aircraft that I'm planning to bring slowly. And the second I decided was the FSR 500, because turboprops is always something that was in the back of my mind. You can fly higher. It's not as expensive as a private jet, right? And it's a little bit more affordable. So if we all could have
and you
a
don't need
million,
a jet to You don't need a jet type rating either.
You don't need a jet type rating. So it's kind of the next progression that you will probably do.
Sure.
If you were able to have a propeller aircraft and then you have the means to move over, that was the most likely thing to buy. So there were two options. There were the 600 and there was the 500. But I decided to start with the 500 because people need to understand how Microsoft Flight Simulator development goes by. It's not like you flip your fingers and you have an aircraft to build. The most important part of an aircraft developing cycle is the systems, right? So at the time that I was ready to start the developing process, we were probably on SUE 4 or SUE 5. Now, as you recall that time, we didn't even have working title releasing the
No.
G3000 plugins or anything like that.
Yeah.
Right? So imagine trying to see yourself, one person man. Okay, yeah, let me do 600, which have a G3000 and all the systems and pages that have behind it. Right? It's just a task that is not possible to accomplish on the required time to see any return on investment. Right? Yeah, and doing this out of passion, but you can't have just passion and try to fill that passion with you don't have the means and income behind it to continue. It's just the reality of life. So that's why the decision was to start with the 500, because at that point in time, we knew that Working Title was working on the G1000 and they were going to put plugins and things to it. So that made more sense. And in fact, the aircraft was developed with all the simulation except the avionics, all the way to 3 months prior to release, because I knew that they were changing the G1000. I wanted to grab the latest version that they were having available for it. So when that was reached, was on SUE 10.
Yeah.
At that point in time, I took a snapshot of that and then started doing the avionics for it, where you can see the displays, double, just everything like the real aircraft, and very customized. It's not the default G1000 that you see on most aircraft in the system. It was a heavily changed to fit the purpose of what the aircraft does. So it was a very interesting project because most people were not expecting what was going to come out of it, right? Certain I would say the user community is used now to aircraft that just fly, but that's not what I like to bring. I like to bring something more. I want people to feel really immersed into it, and that's the combination of how you achieve that. The way that I feel I'm achieving that is by putting every single stupid detail that you could imagine that should not even be there.
Sure.
Right. I sometimes tell the beta testers the ideas, and they're like, "You're crazy." I say, "Yeah, but that happens, right?" So, for example, I was having a chat with a pilot of a TBM, and he said to me, I was asking questions about when he started the plane, and then he said to me, "Yeah, I burned my starter generator once because I left the button push for more than 45 seconds or something like that," he said.
Man.
Oh, that had to be costly.
And then what happened? It burns,
Sure.
right? And most people will not know because I used to press Control E or whatever on their aircraft, right? And it just works. So I thought, okay, that's a good idea. So we brought to that to the M500 because it's the same starting procedure. And then I talked to a mechanic, and he said, "Yeah, you can't run it more than 30 seconds because it gets so hot that it can burn." So we put that failure, and that's one of the little details, right? But we didn't say anything. And this is what we do. We don't like promising. We don't like doing overhype of the product descriptions. That's not how I work. I just do it the way it's supposed to work, right?
Yeah.
Done. So we did that, and then on release day we had over 450 generators broken because people were starting this thing and leaving the starter running for too long.
It's a popular topic in your Discord.
Yeah,
I noticed that. You can't miss it.
yeah, and that's one of the things, right? So the FS Reborn products are a little bit different, I would say, from what people is used to. It was the same thing with the Sting S4. At the beginning, we had problems with people coming and say, "Why my engine dies when I put the throttle all the way up?" I said, "What is the temperature of your engine?
Yeah.
What is the temperature outside?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, it's -10." Well, it's it's a your carburetor cannot handle the crystals and it's shocking. You have to use a choke lever. Oh, right, and that was something that not most planes as well have simulated. So that's kind of the objective of with the stuff that I'm building, because I mean the idea is that if you could afford an aircraft, you want to fill it, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
if you don't not doing stuff as close as it's supposed to be, then the objective is not there for me, right? The mission of the company then is not being accomplished, and that's the whole objective. So some people want to have deadlines on when I'm going to be delivering things, and that's the first thing I never do, because it's irrelevant. It's the type of product I'm trying to bring in cannot have a deadline. It has to be done when it's ready,
When it's ready.
right?
And I will say, one of the things that I really appreciate about it is that when you put it out, it was ready.
Yeah,
It was ready. It was not a test vehicle. It was ready. And actually, I'm going to put up a little picture I took care of it. So this is
yeah,
the 500 in the evening, which is stunning with the lights going around it, etc. And you had mentioned that you had done some custom work on the
yeah.
G1000. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that. So I'm sort of curious about where some of the differences are and what some of the challenges were that you had there, because as you say, it's details, details, details. I'm sort of
Yeah.
wondering what happened there.
So, well, as you see there on the MFD, that's a double column, and most of the G1000 that we have on Microsoft Flight Simulator is a single column. So obviously, I have to find my way in to make that as a double column display, and then put the gauges that goes in there. But the difficulty in there is that the G1000 was changing at that point in time, um, and the code behind it. So the there are certain gauges in there that I have to build myself, like the flap, the gears, um, and the pressurization gauges, for example. The colors of the green colors are different from what you will see on normal ones as well. I changed that too. But there is code behind, because on this aircraft, what happens is the pressurization system is custom as well. Um, when you select your flight plan, the aircraft determine the elevation where you're going to land automatically. You see, so it calculates your pressurization, the pressurization, all auto. So when we find out how everything works, we discovered that we could not use the SDK um, information and APIs that it has for pressurization. So I have to code all that myself. The ITT and NG numbers, that was another problem, because something that occurs with turboprops is as they climb higher, they start losing performance, right? And then what should happen is that you feel that your torque is becoming less, and you have to keep pushing the lever forward to um, remain on the performance climb that you're trying to achieve. And that's something that by default the SDK is not able to do either. So pretty much the entire aircraft simulation behind this, I would say, is between 80 to 90% custom and 10% the base Microsoft Flight Simulator. And that is what took most of the time to achieve the release, because one problem that I learned, and now we understand this and we're not going to fall for the same trap, is that you take a user manual from the aircraft manufacturer and it tells you certain information. and you use this information and you think, this is it, this is what I need to do to make my aircraft. And then a real pilot sits on it and start telling you, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah, of course.
We're like, what do you mean it's not how it works? Look, the POA says that the torque, the maximum torque is 1,300 pounds per square. I says, no, on the M500, I have all the way to 1,500. I said, what? That can be true. Look, I have the Pratt and Whitney manual
Yeah.
here that is
It's in
telling me
front of me.
this.
Yeah.
It's in front of me. The manual from Pratt and Whitney is telling me that this engine does this only. It says, no, look. And he did a video on the real aircraft
Oh, very
and
nice.
push it, the torque to the maximum. He can do that only for 2 seconds because otherwise he will break the engine. And he recorded it for me, and you could see the aircraft shaking like mad. And when I saw it, I said, okay, so fine. So everything I did, trash in the bin, and we have to start again. So and that happened 4 months before the release that we did.
Okay.
I thought that I was ready to release a month and a half after I started that beta process with real pilots. And this is why you cannot give people deadlines, because something will come and then you determine, okay, this is not ready. Then I have to redo this. So we have to strap equipment with this guy. He flew this type 3 times per week. And I said, okay, I want you to record all the data on these parameters on each flight you're doing. And then he did that. And then we started recollecting data as well from videos online. And I collected a whole bunch of matrix of information of the engine performance on different temperatures, because this is the problem with turboprops. The performance really changes with temperatures. So we built a data set with his help and beta tester help, gathering every single possible video we could have, because unfortunately these pilots that we're helping, they are in Brazil, where it's very warm. So what we were missing is the data set, what happened when the engine is cold, and what happened when the engine is on standard ISA. So I was able to get the data from standard ISA from Pratt and Whitney, because that's what they publish. They don't publish anything else.
Right.
And then I was able to get the data from all the others via any possible means I could have. And I have to build own formulas for interpolation to fill the gaps. And when that happened, and I pushed the update for the internal build, and the real pilots took it, they said, I don't know what you did, but this thing is behaving between 95 to 99% of the real stuff.
That's good.
And that was enough, because
Right.
for me, that is a price point I'm looking for, right? I'm not building something that costs you $100. I'm building something that costs you 32, right? And that's the range that we want to keep products. So I thought, okay, that's really good, and that is good enough. And it was so good that he said, can we use this for training? And I said, well, officially, I turned my blind eye. I think you can do whatever you want.
Right, exactly.
Right,
Don't
yeah.
tell me. Don't tell me.
Yeah. So that is cool.
This is what it looks like for those who
Yeah.
haven't seen it
Yeah,
on the
it's
outside.
it's a really good looking aircraft. I've always liked the M500. Really good looking aircraft.
So when they
Go ahead,
start exploring all the failures that we put in, which is based on Pratt and Whitney information, their own information, pilots' experiences, all the sort of failures that we put in the aircraft that occurs is based on them. And they start using it. It's like, this is just the best thing I ever tried on Microsoft Flight Simulator. They were telling me, the pilots all the time, right? And they're saying, oh, I need to talk to my CFI about this. And they did. And then the CFI bought it when we released it. And now he's in touch with me, because what they want to do is they want to use this for practical training for the pilots in Brazil.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic.
So
fantastic.
basically, they have some ideas that they're discussing, and we have it all ready. So that's what is the work that's going to happen in January for FSR 500, where I'm going to build this it's like it's going to be a special page on the tablet where you can trigger your own failures, basically, based on parameters the way they do it, right? So basically, an operator will be able to open the tablet on an external boot, lock it so these guys cannot see inside the aircraft, and they're gonna set up a scenario for them, right? This is gonna go wrong. This is gonna go wrong. This is gonna go wrong. But the important thing is that I told them, okay, yeah, I'm happy to do that in exchange for all the help you guys did for us when we were developing it. But we have to build it in a way that it has to work as well for the customer so they can have fun with it, right?
Yeah.
And they agree,
Yeah.
okay, fine. So we're coming into agreement how to do it that meets both ends. So that will be available not only for PC but as well for Xbox. So
Oh,
people on
lovely.
Xbox
Wow.
go
That's
there and
fantastic.
say, okay, at 10,000 feet, I want my engine to quit due to this particular failure, and then it will happen. Or they could say, I want a random failure at 5 minutes. We'll pick one of them and then happen. It's gonna go to the extent that they can choose the gear to stop working after X amount of hours or minutes of flight and stuff like that. So they give me all the way that they train their pilots, and when they're gonna embed that in the EFB in a new page, and then you can go there and then do it. So you could have all your release mode off, but you could go there and say, well, I want to practice what happens if my gear fails, or my hydraulic pump fails, or my starter fails, or these fail. What would be the experience? So it will be quite interesting. And then obviously, the idea is that these technologies I can reuse for the products, which is the beauty of it. So for the Phenom, the same module can be used, but adapted to the failures that the pilots are going to tell me they have.
Yeah. That's
Which
good stuff.
actually, I guess, is a good segue to talk about the fact that you've announced recently that you will shortly be retiring to your programming cave
Yes.
to work on the Phenom,
To
pretty much
phenom.
exclusively
Yeah.
300E.
Yeah.
So, what inspiration there? Sort of the next step. You're in your mind the next
Well,
step from the
imagine,
500.
yeah, one of my fantasies always was like, okay, if I could own a private jet to take my families for holiday and me flying it myself. I mean, who hasn't fantasized on this space of being the guy that is sitting on a 737 and then, oh, one of the pilots is sick, and you will raise your hand and say, oh, I can fly it.
Oh, I can land it. I can
Yeah, I
land
got it. I got it.
it.
Yeah, we're
you
gonna we're
you
gonna get that done.
I
Yeah.
don't think there is one person on Microsoft Flight Simulator that hasn't gone on holiday on an Airbus or a Boeing or whatever they sit on, and they think, yeah, I wish the pilot could be indisposed. I could be the one that saved the day. It's just a fantasy that every single person has. But a personal fantasy is, if I could own a private jet and take my family for holiday any place, what jet it will be? And I have several that I would like to have. Phenom 300 is one of them. Phenom 100 as well, but I knew that my friend Sebastian from um, Cookspur, he was planning to do one, and I knew that Carenado was planning to do one. So I decided, well, I'm going to go for the 300. And the reason I choose the 300 was because there is a developer that did one Phenom 300 for Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's there, but it's a Frankenstein product where they put the flight model of the CG4 and the sounds of the CG4, and the 3D is just a 300. And that kind of was a personal disappointment for me because it's a plane that I would love to own in real life.
Sure.
So, based on the philosophy how it works, I thought, well, maybe I will not sell many copies of this because there is already one, but I don't care. I want to have it working as it should be with all the stuff that it should have and all the system that it must have, so I can fulfill my dream that I have one.
That sounds.
And that is the reason to choose it. So, why expectations people can have from it? I don't want to raise them too much because that's something I don't do. Number one, the project development that I execute is very dynamic because I take the ideas from the people on the team. I run very large teams on the test. There are between 25 to 35 sometimes,
Hmm.
um, which I've been told by Microsoft that I have one of the largest that they know, because I send this list to them so it shows up on Xbox and stuff. and say, you have one of the largest ones, and then they use me as a test sometimes for things because they know I have one of the larger ones. So when the process start, they start exchanging their ideas, and I pick up where they're coming from, and then I start adding things on the project.
Sure.
Right. So I don't like talking too much about what the future holds, but what I like people is to see what we have done. Right. So if we were able to put a working parachute on a little ultralight, which people say is the best ultralight in the scene up to date, and we did all what we did for the turboprop, and people say
Sure.
that we were the best turboprop on the class on the release in 2023. What's going to happen with the private jet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's. I mean, I'm excited. The
yeah,
just to kind of interject here,
yeah,
the 300E is probably the most capable single pilot
yeah,
bit private jet you can buy.
yeah,
In the
exactly.
real world. So yeah.
Yeah, which is why it's part of my fantasy. If I could own
Yeah.
a jet, I
Hmm.
could fly with my family, which will be it will be this one, right?
Well, one thing I
Uh,
won't ask is when it's coming. No.
well,
But let me ask you though. So you actually hit on another topic that I think a lot of people are very interested in, which you're obviously working closely with Microsoft. You've released your products, as marketplace products, Xbox products. I think a lot of people are very curious about what is that situation like? How does that work? How have you found it as a developer? Obviously, you've chosen to go that route, but I think for a lot of the users, it's sort of a mysterious, opaque world.
what do you think is the mysterious bit? How do you interact with Microsoft and so on?
How do you interact with Microsoft?
Right.
People talk about, oh my God, the updates take 23 years to get there, or what are the, why does the
I
stuff
don't
come for
know. I don't
Xbox?
know why people say that and why developers says that because it's not my experience. I mean, let's give you a fact. We released version one on the 3rd of November, and before I went on holidays, which was on the 18th of December, I believe, we already had 6 updates released. So how come people say it's slow? I was pushing an update every week, and when we had the first hot patch, we released it on a Thursday, and we determined what the problem was on a Monday, and by Thursday was out. You know, I can't comment on other devs, but Microsoft have a very efficient team, and they understand when you're going through the first phases of release. They also know that we produce of high quality, right? Because they have seen the rating, they have seen the feedback on forums, they monitor all the kind of stuff. So when I tell them I have an emergency patch to release, their team move ground, ceiling, clouds, everything they can to put that patch out. If I tell them this is urgent, I need it out, they even release it once outside of a Thursday. They only release on Thursdays, and because they knew it was urgent, I explained why it was urgent. They push it on a Friday. So that situation where they say that the marketplace today is sort of slow, I don't find the case. I find working with them very satisfying. We have a very good relationship of working relationship. Of course, I talk to them always in respectful ways.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
I always praise them when they do something as they should. I express my criticism in a constructive way when something should be improved. Um, and it's a professional manner of how you discuss things. And it always works. I don't have any problems releasing my patches. So for me, it's really not a problem. There is a lot of questions of why you release only on marketplace. Well, at the beginning of the interview, I explained why consoles are so important to me, and therefore that means that I have to reach the consoles for that purpose. Um, if if I was selling stuff exclusively through my website, you're really not saving too much money as people think. There is a misconception that because you sell through your own website, you're doing a big saving. That is not true. When you live outside of the United States and you have a business, you must declare the tax that you collect internationally to each country of origin of the purchase. Now imagine that transaction on a space like Microsoft Flight Simulator when people buy from every corner of the world. So effectively what will happen is when I sell each copy, I have to record where the person lives, take account of that tax that was collected, and register myself in that country with a tax number, and then send the tax at the end of the month. Multiply that for 100 countries, and you have set yourself to a position where all you're doing is that instead of sitting and developing code. So what you have to do now is to hire somebody to do that job for you. That's the percentage you're paying already for a distributor, and you're not doing that job. So this is the reason why distributors such as Orbex, Anybuilds, you know, um, C Market, and all the ones that you guys hear about exist because they do that job. They
Yeah.
collect,
Yeah.
they take a fee, and they do that job, right? Fine. And they're taking a percentage, and the percentage is not much different. It's exactly the same percentage that Microsoft takes, which does the same job for me, right?
Yeah.
So now, if I am sitting as it is right now as a one-man army, I have to give my accounting to somebody, right? I have to produce accounting from Orbex, Anybills, Contrails, C Market. You start seeing how all that collects together, right? That is a workload that is not really a benefit because at the end of the day, I have to put it on marketplace anyway, so it reaches the consoles. So it's just not really beneficial from the business point of view, because I'm not saving anything. It's just giving me more work for achieving the same goal, right? So that's one side of it. And so by me being exclusive on marketplace, it's just saving me a ton of time. Number one, I don't have to call on installers. I don't have to worry about installers. I don't have to worry about SSLs on the installer so they don't be triggered by antivirus. I don't have to give support to people because your installer is not unloading. I don't have to run a server to host my content
Product.
delivery
Yeah.
and be all slow when I'm selling something and then people upset because they can't download the stuff that they buy. I don't have to worry about these certificates and people saying your installer is saying that it's on antivirus. It's just not there. So all that time that I'm saving and sitting creating high quality products. And
Mm.
that's the objective. And that brings costs down. People are asking, how come that you are charging only $32 for this amazing Turbo Pro when it should cost 50? Well, no, because I want to bring prices lower so more people can have access
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
what I am developing. And that's part of the strategy and philosophy of
And I,
being marketplace only.
and I wonder about that because one of the other pieces of that I hear is very important to some developers, and I wonder based on your own experience, getting a console that your dad, brought back for you, um, you know, uh, local area pricing.
Yeah. Regional
How important
pricing.
is that
Yeah.
regional pricing piece to you?
Regional pricing, in which way, for example?
Well, that I mean, at least as I understand it, Microsoft is trying their best to kind of adjust prices based on sort of regional
Yeah, yeah,
monetary values.
but that's the point. I mean, I'm trying to bring a product to a low level that
Yeah.
Yeah,
is not really affecting in that kind of way, right? The conversion is done by day, and it's nothing we can control. That's
yeah,
part of the exchange rates and stuff the way they're
sure.
doing it. But that's the key thing why I'm marketplace only. It's just no headaches, right? It's just that's it. I can focus on what I'm good at, developing, right? I don't have to focus on accounting. I appreciate people don't understand the background of how all this works, and that's why these interviews are good because people see the inside.
Yeah.
And
Right.
Microsoft is really good at this. They are not having any problems with update. This is something that used to be in the past, but that's not true. I mean, I sat with them and I explained, like, I'm having this feedback from people that say that's too slow, and I sent a good letter to your Newman about it, in a good way and positive. And at that point is when the marketplace situation started to change. You guys saw the QAs that they raised. They said, we're going to empower now our third party developers with the testing process. And that's when the speed ups start happening.
Hmm.
Because in the past, what happened is that we used to submit to them and they do all the testing. And if it was a problem, they will tell you, oh, see, that's very slow with the amount of things that people submit. So now what happens is we submit, they prepare it, and we do their own testing. And when we know it's okay, we say release, and they release it. So that brings the times for release or our updates massively low. You can actually now predict when an update is going to be out, because for people that is able to, and you have seen on my Discord server say next Thursday we're going to have this version out. It's because I already know that's going to be the case. Because now I can time it. I know that the time when I say yeah, it's okay. We have a portal where we can say, yeah, it's all okay, release it. And I know how long it takes from that point onwards. So that situation is debunked. Um, is and that was one of the arguments that a lot of people were having about buying from marketplace. But there is something very important people are missing now. We're gonna go to a transition soon, where a new platform is gonna be available.
Yep.
Okay, and one of the key things that Microsoft is trying to ensure, and he communicate this to the entire community, is we want to ensure that whatever you purchase works on the new platform and you have the ownership on the new platform. Now think about that for a second. Every single person that been selling through their own website and all sort of other things now has to start thinking how they're gonna manage that process. That
Yeah.
means changing their installers and all the sort of things and evaluating that someone really owns it so it shows in 2024. I don't have to worry about anything of that. Neither my customers. They know that if they bought something right now for 2020, it's going to work on the next, and whatever Microsoft put in place to make the transition happen, it will work, right? So that's another saving from my side and headaches to my customers where they say, yeah, I don't need to worry. I bought it. I know that when it's ready for 2024, it's going to show up there. Done. I don't have to go through purchasing again or pay update fees or pay anything whatsoever. I'm not going to charge any update fees for preparing my product for 2024. It's just going to show up end of it. So that's the key thing why I don't understand sometimes why people get so upset that I am on marketplace only. Perhaps they're not seeing the other side of the coin. I do see theirs. I do see their concerns, but those concerns are being addressing with Microsoft. I pass the feedback and explain to them what people feel, and they are being adjusting their procedures and things so to make things better, and we're seeing results.
So, Raul, one of you sort of led me into one other topic, and I hope you'll bear with us for a few extra minutes here.
Mhm.
Um, you're a very keen observer of the industry in general.
Yeah.
I think that for those who've read your posts over the years, you have a way of cutting right to the chase of what's going on. And I think that Felix and I are both uh, sort of folks who watch the industry carefully, try to get a feel for what's going on with products, particularly high fidelity stuff and all those sorts of things, the
Yeah.
kind of products that you're interested in. Um, I let me ask a real generic question.
Mhm.
Uh, what do you think of the current state of the market, the obvious changes that FS 2020 and presumably 2024 have brought to the industry? Some call it a golden age, so to speak. What are your thoughts?
Well, you know, the day that the Steam S4 was on the console, when we managed to do the release, I took a screenshot and sent it to my father and said, "Look, we did it." And he remembered why, right?
Yeah.
Because that's how I started. There was no ever on the last 25 years of flight sim industry where, specifically to the Microsoft Flight Simulator branch, Prepare 3D, or X-Plane, or DCS, or all the others exist where this could be the case, where you could put it in a console so people could relax from their sofa and just fly and have a good time, right?
Yeah.
And this has been achieved thanks to Microsoft Vision. So, of course, when you have someone with the resources of Microsoft, it has brought into the attention into a new market. Now, 3 years ago, I believe the Xbox community was much larger than what it is today. And what I believe is the reason is that they got a taste and they were hooked, and then they wanted more, and they have been switching to PC.
Hmm.
And you can see this on Microsoft forums quite often, where someone says, "I had enough of my Xbox X. I'm gonna buy a computer so I can enjoy Microsoft Flight Simulator more." Right?
Yeah.
So it means that it worked. The strategy that they had to give a larger exposure, it did work. That's one of the points, but it's a combination of things. You can see that when they achieve to make the way that the terrain looks and the way that the system started representing the world for the customer, it changed the way the perception of Microsoft Flight Simulator is. Because also you take FSX versus Microsoft Flight Simulator and you see the difference in terrain. And
Oh
let's
yeah.
say that you use it for 20 days, right? And then you go back to FSX. Can you stand it? I mean, be honest.
No.
Can you
No.
It's
Same with P3D. To be
I'm
honest.
the only reason I'm in P3D is for the Concorde and the Queen of the Skies, and both of those you're flying at 40,000, 35, forty
and
thousand
it doesn't
feet,
matter.
and
Or
it doesn't matter.
60,000
Exactly,
if you're
sixty
Yeah.
convoying
thousand
around.
feet,
Yeah.
barely. You can. I've gotten to
It still
60
matters.
once,
It
but
still
yeah,
matters. You know
it still
why?
matters. It
It
does.
still matters, and I'll say this: it matters for one other reason too, Raul. Everything you just said, plus the performance is flat out
Oh
better
man,
than
it's
every other
night and day.
simulator. Not even close.
It's night and day. The performance games, like even on a moderate PC, you run your FSR 500, and you probably are getting 40, 50, 60 frames
Yeah.
from that on a moderate PC with reasonable settings. We could not even in P3D. You like had to have a NASA supercomputer to get those kind of
Yeah. So
numbers.
so so in my view, Microsoft Flight Simulator did bring a new, fresh age to Microsoft Flight Simulator
Yes.
to simulators overall, because something that I see very often when I have the opportunity to speak to certain key people of Microsoft in the last FS Expo. They want this thing in their heart. They want this thing to be as close as possible, and to real world. And all I can think of is you guys have seen this movie about, I think it's NASCAR, where this guy created the most advanced car simulator for racing. And that's what he wanted to do. And at some point, they wanted to prove to Nissan that these guys using the simulator could be actually real racing pilots. And they opened um, a program which still exists, where once a year they pick people that have been using the simulator to see, and they give it a go in a real car, and
Yeah.
they're able to actually go through the race. And one of them managed to actually be a champion in the real world.
Huh.
I mean, I was quite inspired by that movie because it reminds me of what I see when I speak to these persons at Microsoft. That's what they want. Of course, it's much harder with a flight simulator because the amount of variables are involved, and
Oh yeah.
each aircraft is different, and
Yeah.
all that kind of things, right? And the scope of the project is huge. So 2020, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 is the beginning of that transformation, and I don't see anything stopping it now into becoming something more. Even if the ridiculous computer theories that they're going to disappear from the market, and they say we're going to end up with nothing, that's not going to happen. I've been on this space since 2015. I released my first add-on in 2017. That's a lot of years. I've been using simulators since I'm a kid. And
Yeah.
all I can tell you is that there is something else always.
Yeah.
Always there is something that shows up and replaces whatever you had, and it's always better. Always better. So if we see it from that point of view, Microsoft Flight Simulator has set now the standard and the mark of how things should look like and behave like, and whatever comes after is just gonna make it better. We're not going to have something worse, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
exactly.
so,
I
Yeah.
agree
so,
with that.
so, so now they are announcing that there is a new one coming, and I know certain things that I can say, but
Sure.
it's gonna be better, and then what's after it's gonna be just better. So there is no reason to be afraid. As a, if you are someone that loves simulations and loves simulators, there is no reason to be afraid of the change, because whatever the change is going to be for the better. It's not going to be for the worse, right? You know, I sometimes ask people, "Oh, well, what is it that you're afraid of?" "Oh, I'm afraid that they're not going to fix the bugs that we're saying that exists on the platform. I'm afraid that they're going to abandon 2020 because they're going to bring 2024." Yeah, but that's not the case. We are just being told that because the advances that they're doing on the new platform, they're going to bring now on SUE 15 new ground handling and friction formulas and things for the SDK, so we can make
Which
our
they need.
aircraft better.
Thank
Yeah.
God.
So
Right?
yeah, they do need it. But yeah,
Thank
no,
God.
but they're doing it. Your point
No,
is
that's
they're
good.
doing
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're doing it. They
Yeah.
they
Okay,
listen to
so
the community. Yeah,
so
for
I
sure.
think people should stop being afraid of the change and embrace it. If we were afraid of the change when everything happened, um, then we will not be where we are. I
Yeah,
will not be doing airplanes. I will still doing other things. In my view, the SDK for making aircraft is easier on Microsoft Flight Simulator than it was on Prepar 3D,
Yeah. I
and
totally
that's
agree with
why
that.
I was able to jump into it. Where I was skeptical when I saw the Prepar 3D one, I was doing utility add-ons rather than
yeah,
airplanes per se. So, you know, embrace the change. Whatever is happening is going to be for the better. I certainly cannot wait for the SDK capabilities that I know 2024 is going to bring to start implementing in my your airplanes.
that's good to hear.
Well, I have to say, Raul, I look forward to your next release. I'm enjoying the 500. The couple of screenshots that you saw there, the one landing in Reno, that was a recent flight.
I was going to ask you if that
It's
was Reno because I was like,
Yeah, it's Reno.
yeah, it
It's
was Reno.
it's it's a
Yeah,
fun airplane. I love a turboprop, as I've said. It's one of those things. Much like you said,
Yeah,
if it were in my own power to afford, that's what I'd love to be able to
yeah,
fly around in. And yeah, one of the fun things is the fields that you can go into that you can't with your A320 is or your 737, which are also
sure.
fun. But that's how it is. Well, we've kept you an hour,
Yep.
it's
but
fine.
it's been a fantastic. What an inspiring story as
Yeah,
well as to how you came to be part of the flight sim community. And I do find it truly inspirational. I hope others who find themselves in similar situations. Which, by the way, I'll say that if reading forum posts and Discord, there are any number of folks who can't fly
yeah,
for medical reasons and
Yep,
other or 100 other reasons, and this is a really accessible way to get there. Putting aside that even just getting a private pilot license is insanely
yeah.
expensive today, etc. But we thank you greatly, Felix. Anything you got?
yeah. I thank you very much for coming on. I was gonna say I have a similar story to you. I don't want to get into that right now. Because this isn't about me. This is about you. I have one question, which is: have you thought about the M600 at all, or is that just you're going straight to the Phenom? And
I already have the following 3D models done. The 600 3D model is done. There is a TL3000 model already done. I have another private business jet that is larger than the Phenom done.
okay,
I'm building another private jet 3D as we speak. And the thing is that certain product has to be bring up sometimes at the right time.
Yes. Okay.
So
Yeah.
one of the problems I have with the TL3000, which is an ultralight, is that is fully licensed with TL ultralight, and they require me to sell it as they sell it from the manufacturer. That's part of the deal. And the reason they do that is because when they sell one in the real life, they ask the person if they use Microsoft Flight Simulators, and if they do, then I grant a copy, right? And so you have to look like it is. And unfortunately, that 3000 and the CS4, they sell it with the G3X, and I have seen a reaction in the market that a lot of people are tired of the G3X because the way that is being done on the sim, and there are like a lot of hopes that working title one day will build one or not. I don't know if that's the case. So I'm holding up a little bit, probably until 2024 to see
What comes? Yeah.
if he improve it. And if it is, then I will go ahead and release the TL3000. The TL3000, we have two versions. We have the normal wheel and a floater, and people will get both for the price of one.
Oh, nice.
With the entire wear and tear, failures, all the stuff the way we do it. But that is right now in hold until we hear more about avionics, and I explain this to TL Ultralight, and they say, okay, fair, don't worry. They want me to do others that they have. They want me to do the Sparker, and they want me to do, they're so happy with this for results that they want more.
That's great.
The reason I didn't went for the 600 first is because the G3000 wasn't ready.
Yeah, 100%.
Now we have the G3000 ready, but then I want to learn the G3000 with the Phenom, right? Because the Phenom has a G3000. So based on that, I will know how long it takes to do the 600. And another thing I want is I need to find a way that anybody that bought the 500 gets a discount for the 600. And we're talking about very heavy discount because for me, the people that are supporting FSReborn with the 500 is helping the developing of other things, right? So the 600 is quite similar. It's different because of avionics, but everything else is quite similar. So I feel it will be unfair to charge the full price for people that haven't bought the 500 first. And then for that, I need a change on the marketplace system so they know how that works, and then they get a discount. So it makes sense to put it after the Phenom if possible.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I'm looking forward to that one.
I have a lot of things planned for the Phenom that I know that is gonna blow people's mind, and it's very likely that then people are gonna say, "We need more jets from you." So we will need we will need to adapt of what direction is at that point, because it's all dependent, right? You cannot sometimes release a product that you know is good, but people might be wanting something else, right? And in my view, all these aircraft I'm doing are planes that I love with the bottom of my heart. But we're doing a very big one, which is my most desired aircraft. My most desired aircraft is a Boeing 727-200.
Oh.
And
Well,
for that,
you just made somebody's day here. I can
Oh
tell
my
you that
goodness.
much. Felix is a mighty happy man.
because it's such a large project, we're doing that in partnership with ThinkWorks Studios. So that is actually a joint venture. So we are doing that in conjunction, where our approach is to create everything around it ready, and when you reach a point, then they're gonna hand over to me, and then I start doing my crazy stuff. As Alex says, you are the nutcase here. I prepare all this stuff, I give it to you, and then you finish it.
The mad scientist, huh?
Yes. So there is a high possibility that when we are releasing the Phenom, that could happen, and then I have to jump straight away into the 727. You see?
Okay.
So for people listening to the stream, any purchase you guys did for S4 help me to build the 500, the 600, and the Phenom. Any purchase you guys are doing for the 500 are helping me to pay for the 727.
Sure.
Okay, so the philosophy in the company is I'm not paying myself anything. I'm just reinvesting everything into it, because my Everest is that 727. And pretty much when that 727 is out, I'm gonna be the happiest man in the world. I'm gonna be flying that stuff every day. I tell Alex, when we release that, I need to take like 6 to 7 months of no development because I just want to fly non-stop the 727.
Well, I'll
it's
tell you
a
that I'll go back in the archives and say, well, I did buy some
Yeah.
of your immersion collaborations, FS
Oh
Lights
yeah.
Reborn. I got
yeah.
a few of your other
Yeah, I've
products
got the
too. So
immersions, which are I love the immersion products. They're absolutely like fantastic, and
Yeah.
I don't have the 500. I was meaning to pick it up. We talked about that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go pick it up after the stream because
Yeah. So the versions were in with Parallel 42. As you can see, I
yeah,
have my Parallel 42. We're partners as well, and we started working on 2018, I believe. I don't know. And we work on the immersions where they were developing certain projects. Um, Now there are not some news on those coming to Microsoft Flight Simulator. I'm aware of what they're doing, but this time they're working full time themselves on that because
yeah.
obviously my resources now is more dedicated to making airplanes and things. We work together on the Freedom Fox.
Oh,
Um,
did you? I didn't know
yeah,
that.
that happened before the CS4. They were working on it, and um, we joined the forces at the point to accelerate their release when they saw what I was doing with the S4. So I posted S4, finished the Freedom Fox, and then when that was out, then I continued on the S4, and then mine went out. And and I was working actually on the Freedom Fox with certain things, an update that is coming for it that we're cooking. Work on that during Christmas after the release of the 500. So, so the Freedom Fox is going to have, by Paracord 2 is going to have a very nice update soon. So there is a lot of stuff going on.
Sounds like
Yeah,
that's
there's
fantastic, though. It's
there is
great.
always
yeah.
something going on.
It sounds amazing. I mean, it's
Yeah,
exciting stuff. Seriously.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
apologize. I didn't realize. I went and looked when you said it. I guess the 737-200 was actually. Uh,
727. Yeah,
I'm sorry, the 727. Sorry,
yeah,
You're okay. It's
727.
fine.
See, my head's in another place. 727. I see that you guys actually did mention that a while ago, and I missed that one, or it had slipped my
yeah,
mind. Otherwise, I
yeah,
would have
yeah, yeah,
asked
yeah.
directly. But
Yes.
exciting,
Let's
exciting
see
stuff.
if by half of the year we have some 3D model to show.
Oh,
But you know, what is the progression here is that people understand. I mean, things that I'm planning for Fenton, just to give a little hint to somebody, to some people there, so they understand that this is going to be done properly. There is the, instead of bringing the pilots late development like I did with the 500, because I was following a POH. Now what's happening is I'm bringing the pilots on the Alpha program. So that way I can catch those differences from a manual to the guy that is actually sitting every day on the cabin doing stuff, right? And
Yeah.
we were discussing all sort of things already, and I gave him and his colleagues already an Excel spreadsheet where they're collecting engine data ready for me. And I haven't even started coding the aircraft. And they're already filling all this data, which is going to be filled into my own engine simulation. So all the numbers that we get from the engine performance, temperature, EPRs, all the kind of things, is going to be as real as it is on the real one. And I started asking him questions. He's like, "You are really nuts." I said to him, how you will cause an engine fire, James? Tell me. Like, well, FADEC prevents this. I said, yeah, I know FADEC prevents it, but it must be a way to cause it. And he started
yeah,
giving me all the areas that it will cause it. And that has kicked off already a lot of ideas on my head. And we're going to put stuff that no private jet right now Microsoft Flight Simulator has. And the idea is to bring that kind of same level of what we achieved with the 500, where if I'm giving you a wizard, and this is a warning for everybody already on this on the 300. If I'm giving
Prepare.
you a wizard and the star, and I'm saying, are you sure that you would like to have failures? Yes, no. You would like to have this? Yes, no. I mean it. If you say yes and you are not following the checklist, you can bet the aircraft is gonna bite you and it's gonna do something to you, because that's why checklists are there for.
yeah,
Pilots have to follow those checklists or bad things happen. And a lot of people email me and say, I can't believe this happened to me today because I rushed my flight and ended up in the sea. I said, well, yes, because you didn't pay attention, you didn't follow the checklist, you forgot to do this, you forgot to do that. So that's kind of the entire thing is going to happen with the entire production line going forward. It was with the S4, it was with the 500, it's going to be with the 300E, it's going to be with the 727, it's going to be with the X, Y, Z that is coming further down the line. I want to believe that when we release the 727, we're going to change the space of what people think about our liners.
That's fantastic. I'm excited. I mean,
yeah.
You said, I can't wait. Do some IGS flying with Pan Am. That's for the 727. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I remember my days flying that aircraft, and when the flaps go flight 40, it's just like a sight that you don't see these days. You can see a hole on the wing. It's like how this thing is still flying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Raul, we thank you wholeheartedly
Yes, thank you very
for coming
much,
on
Raul.
today.
Yep.
It's been great to have you. I'd like to invite you back anytime you want to come and tell us about something you're working on or something you want the customer base to know about. Please let us know, and we'll be.
Well, normally
bring
when we're gonna push a new update for the FS 500, which is gonna bring a lot of cool stuff, and then I will just go and develop. And then what happens? People they don't see anything. And suddenly I just come out. Okay, now I'm ready to show something. My developing kind of philosophy is that when I tell my people I reach alpha, is what is the release for many products out there. But that's for me is an alpha. And then what happened? They tell me all the errors that I could have, and then I make then a beta out of it, and then I invite new people with new fresh eyes to test it again. And then when that pass is when I call, okay, now we have a release candidate. So it takes a while. Don't expect Fender to be out in 2-3 months because then you will be disappointed.
Oh, we won't. We're very.
If it's anything like, well, hopefully I'm planning to go to Expo again this year, and you did have a few previews to look at the 500 when you were there, and maybe we'll see some of Phenom. But if we don't, it'll still be fun to see him in person again.
Yeah. But things are always in motion, always working. You can see him in Discord. He's on Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Yep,
doing stuff.
Well, we thank you, and
thank you very much.
We'll talk with you soon.
Yeah, sure. Nice to have me. Thank you.
All right, bye.
Yep. Bye.
Well, that was a little longer than we usually go, but it was 100% worth it. Felix, any other thoughts before we
I think it was good to see the insight. It was nice, and I think it's refreshing to see developers who are like, no, you're going to get it when it's ready, and whenever it's ready is whenever I say that, and we're not subject to like external pressures. I mean, when I started flying in the Sims, that's kind of how it was, because you had an actual physical medium that you were releasing your products on. You had to release it, in a state where it was going to have none or as few bugs as possible. So it's really refreshing to see that versus some of the takes, the exciting new products, the 727, which of course I'm happy about, the M500, all of that stuff, the Phenom. Those are all things I'm very interested in. I'm looking forward to. And I will say, the one thing is about Microsoft Flight Simulators. It's really kind of ignited a passion for more general aviation aircraft for me. Whereas before, because we had sims that didn't look great, you're flying your tube liner at flight level 350, just doing that. And now we have a sim where things look fantastic, and we can enjoy these aircraft the way they're meant to be enjoyed, and in environments that look great. So I'm looking forward to it. It was great to have Raul on, and it was just, I felt like it was a really good stream today.
Yep, it was a lot of fun, and we'll see you all next week on
We
Wheels
will.
Up Live.
Take care.